Good morning, and welcome to Table Talk with Brenda Perryman right here on TV 33, on Comcast 90 in Detroit and Oakland County. Spread the word, tell your friends, because we're here every Friday. And if you want to call in and talk to us today, you can call us at 313 868 0342, 868 0351, or 868 4336, and that's all 313. You can get us on your phone app or on the internet at www.tv33whpr.com. And now I'd like to introduce today's co-host with you.
Good morning, I'm Chris Sumrall, a servant of the citizens of the city of Detroit for over 10 years.
Good morning, Tamika Ashford, Public Relations Consultant.
Good morning, Darren Calhoun, Supervisor and Investigator with Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in Detroit.
Okay, we sound all staid and everything, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk some serious issues, and then we're going to get into some things that are kind of crazy. And is our tradition, I always find out what happened this day in African American life in Detroit, a book put together by our sometime co-host, Mr. Ken Coleman. And here we go. On this day, May 2nd, in 1964, Mary Wells's My Guy tops Frantic Ernie Durham's Ernie's Top 10 list published by the Michigan Chronicle. It was also a hit all over the country, and I must say it was written by Mr. Smokey Robinson, who went on after that to write My Girl. So he started off, in fact, I think I was in 8th grade. Oh no, I don't want to put my grades out there. I was a child when My Guy came out. Nothing you could do can tear me, nothing you can say can take me away from My Guy. And then he challenged it with My Girl. Now, I know you all like my singing, but
That's awesome.
It's
but
wonderful.
I think it's
I
good.
thought you were
That
singing
was
to me.
great.
You
I
know,
thought it was the record.
Really. But that was the song. We used to bop on that song and everything. Motown. I must give some praises there. Now, we have a lot of things happening in the world as we speak. First and foremost, what about these young ladies? There's a hashtag bring back our girls, or bring our daughters back. And they said at first they said it was 300 young ladies kidnapped in Nigeria, but now they've raised it to there were 500. Did you all hear about that?
Well, I definitely, the number that was floating around initially that I heard was 230, and I have heard there were some reports that it's conflicting numbers, and it's just another black eye for Nigeria as a country. We know that they've had some things going in the past that have given them a black eye, but this is really, really disturbing because these were young school-age girls. As a matter of fact, they were abducted from school, and one of the quotes that was mentioned in the article was, or one of the articles that I read was, if someone was to be safe anywhere, they should be as safe in their school. And it's really, really a point of emphasis now how the government is responding to the search for these girls. And so I think that that's really where the frustration, most of the frustration is now.
One of the things that I'd like to bring out is that this is happening. It's a phenomenon that's happening all over the world. I'm a part of, as a part of my job, I'm a part of the Michigan Human Trafficking Task Force that we're trying to stop human trafficking right here in the state of Michigan and around the city of Detroit. And there are a lot of cases of human trafficking where we don't even recognize, like when we go into hair braiding shops.
Absolutely.
There are women there that have been trafficked from Africa, and all they do is hair for 20, 30 hours at a time, and you would never notice because all we're going in there to do is get your hair done. And there are a lot of industries like that. And if you remember, here in Michigan, there was 120 people that were arrested, I think at the end of the year, beginning of this year, that they were trafficking young people, young women and young boys for the sex trade.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Darren. There's a group, and they have an acronym, AIM, which Adults and Adolescents in Motion, and I believe they're part of that human trafficking task force. And initially, I didn't think there was a problem I didn't think it was a problem in the States.
Right.
You know, you hear about these things and you imagine that it's somewhere over in some distant country, but it is an issue even here in this country. And so we can see, although this is Nigeria we're talking about, these type of stories, you know, resonate even locally.
Right.
So
And this was both. They wouldn't pull them right out. I'm sorry, they pulled them right out of school.
yeah,
I mean that
absolutely.
usually get them in the middle of the night or someplace they're not looking.
Well, even last year, there was some terrorism going on at these schools, and Boko Haram is the name of the group, and it transfers into Western education as a sin. And the main thing they wanted to do was keep the girls from getting educated because they don't believe women should be educated.
But even when you look at historically how women have been treated, even when they have kidnappings here in the United States, the sense of urgency is very lax as to how the police and the officials actually respond to that. So I'm
And
not
it
really
depends
even
on
surprised.
who's
It
kidnapped.
depends on the
too.
community.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the, you're right. I agree with you. And it just depends on the community because we have, and we've known that traditionally in the African American community, it won't get on the news unless we bring it out.
Absolutely.
Now, you know, that woman over in Italy and was caught and doing something, and that hit the news.
Yeah.
And everybody was all over the place, and she broke the law.
You,
So
and what you see, though, as a theme, is that more and more globally, we can identify with it locally, but people are feeling like they have to do something themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the family members and other, you know, folks went and they did a 9-hour trek into the forest. I mean, 9 hours of trudging through, I'd imagine a dense forest looking for your daughter or your niece or something like that.
That's the most frightening thing in the world because when you don't know
You
and
don't
you're
know.
just
And they didn't
Exactly.
see
Yeah.
they didn't see any of those militants or whoever had abducted these girls, and so we can see that there's an intense plea. They just want their daughters back. They want their nieces back, granddaughters.
Well, I've taught a few students who were over here to visit aunts and uncles, and they were in school, but all they did at home was work. They were like servants at home. And that's part of that. They would bring
Part of that
sisters and
human
brothers, or, I mean, they'd have them living there, a lot of them in the house, and it was just ridiculous. It really is. And this is a scary thing. And like you said, it's happening not just in Nigeria.
yeah.
You know,
Something
but
right here in
their
Michigan.
president in Nigeria is kind of weak. It's funny, something had happened. What was the disaster? Not the disaster that just happened with the submarine. I mean, not submarine, it might as well have been with the kids, but something happened last year that it either happened in some country, Italy or England or something. But he said, we want to help you. And I'm saying, how do you want to help when you're not even helping your people?
Absolutely.
He's a
Oh, wow.
figurehead, and there's a lot to be said. And I got this from some Nigerian people who said
Absolutely.
that he's kind of weak. And so now they've come out and said, well, we're looking for him. But at first, just like here, the police weren't doing that
Yeah,
much.
Right.
It was, you know, if there can be any type of silver lining is that a handful of these girls have escaped on their own. I think the number was around 43. And so, although that's, you know, that pales in comparison to every single girl, you know, brought back home. But for those 43, we're definitely thankful, and I'm sure their families are. And we'll wait and see, you know, how this plays out.
And they were young girls too, and so they are being made to marry some of these men.
Now,
Isn't-
that's what's so disturbing to me is that they're taking them in the name of religion and forcing them to marry and forcing them to do whatever and saying it's the way it's supposed to be. And I just can't imagine.
I
that
can't
being the
either.
case.
Well, I pray for the release of those young ladies, and how can some group be so into religion and do something like that?
Well, again, historically, I mean, just on a national level, people in general have always taken advantage of women in general. I mean, even in India, you look at situations where if the husband passes first, they'll actually burn the wife alive. And so the regard for life is little. And when you look at what's happening here in Nigeria, it'll be really interesting to see the support the United States lends to this. So
I personally don't expect much to come from the United States government, and it's unfortunate. But it's you know, it's
Well, I mean,
realistic.
what can the government do? What can we do? I mean, we being me,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
representative of the federal
Right.
government. But what
Well, I mean,
what could
there's.
we do?
I believe that there are certain pressures that the government could put on this group of alleged
No, this-
abductors.
But this group
Maybe on the
doesn't
government,
care.
but not the abductors.
Well,
Because they're terrorists.
Well, you know, it's you say you don't care until you're looking down the barrel of something, and so if this was 230 American citizens.
That's a different thing.
that's
Yeah.
a different take on it.
But the only reason I bring that up is because there are certain things that can be done, but we know that for whatever political or whatever agenda, those things most likely won't be enacted. And you know, all we can do at this point pretty much is pray for the release of these girls, and hopefully they'll make it home to their families.
Right. Why don't somebody start about Donald Sterling and the Clippers?
Oh wow.
That's my wheelhouse.
Okay, you go ahead and start off. I'll
All right.
definitely chime in on it.
I think that was the absolute best showing of Title VII on a national scale in a long time.
Okay.
What do you mean Title VII?
Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which is 50 this year, says that you can't treat someone differently in the workplace on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, and gender. What's supposed to happen when an employer finds out that it was, once they know or should have known, once they have the information or have a rumor of the information, that they're supposed to take swift remedial corrective action. The NBA found out that a rumor was going around that he said these racist things, which created a hostile work environment for his employees. They investigated, they took swift, immediate, and corrective action to correct it, and they're trying to do something about it in the future by keeping him out of this. I understand he did all these bad things in the past, and they should have taken care of it 33 years ago before he got in, but they're doing something now. And this commissioner is absolutely doing something now. So that to me, and I sent this out to my employees and my coworkers at the EEOC. This is what Title VII. We can use this. This is what Title VII is supposed to do.
Absolutely.
We can absolutely use it. So that's great.
And far be it for us to assume that this is over with.
Oh, it's not.
This
too
guy,
much money.
Mr. Sterling, has a history of enjoying going to court in legal battles,
Mm-hmm.
even when
And he is a lawyer.
even when it's obvious that he's in the wrong. And ultimately there's a lot of money at stake here. I think the Clippers are valued at somewhere around $600 million. He purchased them in the early 80s for somewhere around 11 or 12 million. So we can see that he's a savvy businessman, but his social skills may need a little bit of that same savviness. But I'm interested to see how the bylaws are structured. I know that there's like 3/4 of a vote that the ownership has to vote yay to kind of eject him out, but yet he can file an appeal, and this could play out for years.
It can play
We
out
can
for
only,
years.
play out as long as he is 85 or 80 years old.
He-
and he can.
Yeah.
and,
Did
and
That's
the
enough.
logic of it is, he's going to do this as long as he can.
Absolutely.
So, but that's and you're right. And
Did you hear what Bill Maher said? Bill Maher said, well, I know the battle, all it takes for the battle to stop over this for Donald Sterling is the flu.
But you know what? I'm really surprised at how surprised everyone was by the comments. I believe that there's a lot of Mr. Sterlings out there in America. The only difference here is that we heard what was in his heart, how he really felt. But when you look at everyday America, you know, as I stated before, the playing field has never been leveled. And so it certainly should be a wake-up call for African Americans. And
Well, let's take a look at that. Let's,
Okay.
I was listening to the radio yesterday, and there was an African American talk show host from the West Coast who said, "Let's take a look at just the words that he said. Just the words that he said didn't do anything, or go as far as it should, or go as far as it could have. That would that's really offensive. I don't want you taking pictures with black folk." Okay, that's a feeling. That's his opinion. He can have, you shouldn't love them, you should hate them. Okay, he's trying to sway somebody's opinion. So those words in and of themselves, taken in and of themselves and by themselves, and the words that we heard on these recordings are not necessarily discriminatory. He didn't say, I'm not going to hire N-words. He didn't say anything like
Right.
that.
But I think it's the perception,
But
too,
what
the
it does,
perception.
exactly, what it does is creates a hostile environment. Anyone who works in his organizations, whether it is his land ownership, his slumlord or whatever he's supposed to be, and his basketball organization, anyone in that organization now feels, this is how he feels about me, African Americans, Hispanics, and any other minority. And that's where the
Absolutely.
environment is now hostile.
Yeah.
So
What do you guys think about the supposed Lifetime Achievement Award that he was set to
Oh,
receive?
please. They were
from the local-
exposed. The NAACP
Yeah, it's all
was
about money, finance. Very disappointed in the
now
LA chapter.
Leon Jenkins,
Yeah.
judge. Well, he used to be a judge. He was here in Detroit. He was kind of silly here too, but he has now stepped down from the NAACP.
You know, and I think
That's
that
unfortunate.
I think that deserves a spotlight of his own as well, and it's being overshadowed obviously by
Yeah.
the bigger conversation, which is Mr. Sterling and his comments. But there's a conversation to be had too regarding the integrity of these organizations.
Absolutely.
That should be, and honestly, people perceive them to be for the greater good of folks, of colored folks or minorities, whatever you believe.
I agree. I agree in part.
Okay.
And I work with the NAACP here
Okay.
all the time, and I've never had a reason to doubt their integrity.
Okay.
I was very shocked when I heard that he was.
Well, this
giving-
was an independent chapter.
Yeah, this
right.
LA,
So
LA
it's,
chapter.
so it's not the
Yeah.
entire NAACP.
No, we're not talking about the entire or
because
collective.
they're
But it's representative of that. So
and I would want to know who vetted that, who vetted this
Exactly.
process, because that's who should be brought
And
to
is
task.
there a
And
national
is it a-
standard, or is
Right.
is it left to discretion locally?
And I guarantee it's left to discretion locally, especially because what he was trying to do was buy away his guilt.
Yeah, he
And
was
so
trying
he
to
was
buy
paying. He's
opinion,
paying
public
exactly. He's
opinion.
The dollars.
paying money because
Yeah.
he know he's doing wrong on this end. So if I pay on this end, because he had the lawsuits about discrimination, he had the lawsuit
Absolutely.
from Elgin Baylor.
Yeah.
So you got all
Darren
these,
Davis came out and publicly, made some comments on how when he was a star player for the Clippers, how he was just bombarded with negative comments from the sideline, directed at him from Mr. Sterling, and this was just a few years ago.
Right.
For the NBA, I think that this is as much a business decision as it is a credibility decision.
Yeah.
I think that those players, the players in the NBA, recognize that they have a lot of power.
Exactly.
Maybe they
Yeah,
recognize
exactly.
now they have more power than what they thought. And I wouldn't have been surprised if a player or a collective group of players refused to play until a swift decision or after a decision would have been made. We didn't see that. We did see a silent protest where they took the jerseys
across the
off.
Jerseys,
NBA.
yeah.
Yeah.
Across the
I don't
NBA,
know
too.
what people really expected them to do because they are under contract.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. And again, I'm no contract lawyer, but I believe their contract is for 82 games for the regular season. So they don't get any extra money, like per se. Not in
They
their
do-
contract,
they do
but
get-
the playoffs.
No, what I
They-
thought
they do.
about
They get
which
a check
could-
every playoff.
Well, they get a check.
well,
but that's
game.
in their contract. That's not in their contract.
What I thought about, which could have blown this whole thing, was all the fans who had bought tickets. It's nothing worse than buying tickets to a concert or something. You get there and there's no concert. Then I got to go through the changes of,
Absolutely.
trying to be available next time they play or this
I
or
think
that.
that's why the players. I think the players, obviously, their commitment to each other and their team and their lifelong dream of winning a championship. But I think you also think about the fans. Because you're not when you're putting your hands up saying get out your seat, you're not looking at the owner. You're looking at the fans that adore
Absolutely.
you, the kids that admire you, and I think that's really
And that
what-
was unfortunate because a lot of people said, well, they should have done more. But I just think that was a gesture. It wasn't the greatest big time gesture, but it was a nice silent gesture. And things came to a head on Tuesday.
And I think that sorry, but I think that what will show even more of a powerful statement is that once the free agency market opens up,
Yes.
and
People try and get
if those
out of
star
it. They try
players,
to get
if the Blake Griffin, if the Chris Paul, if the Jamal Crawfords, if they leave, or if and you see the financial side affected, because even in the history of discrimination and racial divide, you have to hit someone in their pocket sometime for them to really, really start to listen to you.
Money talks. That's an
Absolutely.
old saying, but money talks. And over a dozen sponsors pulled their sponsorship. And that really started talking. And if that permeates through the NBA, now, like you said, you have to get 3/4 of the owners to say we want him out. And then we have Oprah Winfrey and some others talking about banding together. David Geffen, Ellison by himself. They say the team is worth, $1 billion now.
Right.
Ellison is worth $50 billion by himself.
Wow.
What is $50 billion? I can't even think. I can't even
Okay,
think what
with
$50
$50
billion.
is.
What do you think about that? Somebody said they don't want to see Oprah in the basketball business, but
Well, I don't think there's, I think that's again a discriminatory
No,
statement.
that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
and a black person said it. A black
I'm not
person.
surprised.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise
doesn't
surprise me. I think that it would be poetic justice to see an African American become a majority,
A majority owner.
person.
a black person,
I came from the days of black.
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
but go ahead.
but here's an opportunity for a group of African Americans to come together
Consortium, that
and
exactly.
actually own something, so something that was negative can actually turn into a positive. We've had this roundtable discussion about African Americans or black folk pulling together their resources for something to
Yeah.
happen. So thank you,
years.
Mr. Sterling. I mean, this may be the opportunity. Timing is everything. When you have a number, I mean, how many African American millionaires do we have in this country and billionaires? So the time is now. We can make it happen, or they can make it happen. And so
I'm sorry.
take advantage of it. I'm excited to see that.
And that's the biggest thing that I say about this. What's the lesson that we can learn from this? What can we take from this? And what we can take from this is the law works. Civil Rights Act is turning 50, and it works. And let's start pooling our resources.
Yeah.
Because just because this man from a different time believes this and has the resources to put his views out there and unapologetically put his views out there. Because remember, the commissioner said he showed no remorse in what he said. Okay, that's fine. Let's get that out of the way, and let's start making a better day for this country, starting with the ownership transferring from that team.
Well, you
From that
know,
man.
he said he won't sell, so it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting in and of itself. And what got me was at one point they had said that Al Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson, well, I guess Al Sharpton's supposed to be a minister. Somebody told me he wasn't ordained, but anyway, they were going to go to the game. Now, I think that we have much more going right now that they don't need to. We have crimes every place and everything. I think they're bigger other things for them to fight, but I just hate sometimes when they show up when it's something.
Big. Can I put a disclaimer out? And the disclaimer I wanted to put out was, guys, the power of a side chick. It's just not worth it. You know, this guy was married, and he had him what he
We
considered.
almost got
a-
away, Chris. You didn't have to throw that out for the
He
guys.
had what he
Man. We could have
considered, you know, a sweet, beautiful young girl. and they-
African American Hispanic
They
young
will
lady.
bring you down. So, guys, let this be a lesson. It's
It
not
ain't
worth
worth
it.
it. It
It's
ain't
just
worth
not
it.
worth it.
No.
Yeah, you know, that was weird. She must have thought he was getting ready to break up with her. Or
The
something.
lawsuit had
was the
been brought
lawsuit.
about by his wife.
Oh,
The
yeah,
lawsuit.
towards her.
And he
Yeah.
publicly
was
acknowledged it,
distancing
and
himself.
he said he came out publicly and said yes, she has the right to do this while having his side piece.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the wife is thinking, but she sued the side piece.
And even in
So-
the recording, he mentioned that I may have to just, you know, distance myself from you. So we can kind of tell by the tone of the conversation
money
that it was
talks.
on the down spiral.
And it was money talks. You got a Bugatti, you have a Lamborghini, you
Yeah.
have all,
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
talks. If
I
he
have a-
distanced himself,
I have a Maserati, and you know,
I have a,
Who gave you
I have
that?
I have a Chevy Bugatti.
Yeah,
Maserati.
I heard
Yeah.
the D on there.
yeah, it's a Maserati.
Yeah. In
new
fact,
model.
Tamika has a Maserati.
I sure do. But you know what? Here's the
Don't
deal.
play you cheap.
Hey.
But,
You know, when you are the side piece, just piggybacking on what Chris says, always know that the wife is going to trump. And so, you know, he had this young girl in fantasy land and took good care of her, but all things come to an end. And so not sure how much of a reality she was focused into, thinking it was going to actually last. So it's not just her, but a whole bunch of women.
No,
who fall
no,
into that.
this is way off. Imagine if she filed a charge of discrimination.
Don't put that out.
I'm just saying.
How could she? though?
Sex harassment because
didn't
now
know.
she's saying
She didn't work for him.
Well, she could have been on the payroll. She could have been his personal assistant.
I'm
Oh,
just
for
throwing
You
it
don't know.
out
She
there.
could be the personal assistant.
She might disagree with that.
Oh, my
I'm just
goodness.
throwing it out there.
She might not have worked, but there's. what's
She
the
was
word?
on the
Did she,
payroll.
did she get a
Worked
pay? Was she on the
That's a
payroll?
different variation of work. I think they say twerk.
Hey,
for him.
see,
So I don't
see?
Work with
I
a
don't
Was
know.
twerking for her.
We
and-
can move on.
Do you want me to show you how?
See,
You know,
see?
because I have been known to get up and do
wait,
the
wait a minute now.
Okay,
This
so
is
then
the
moving
daytime.
to the next story
Oh, we're
here.
in the AM now.
Oh,
We're in the AM. We're in the AM.
Yes, that's
a
for my
family show.
late
This is
night,
a family
late
show.
night show, right? One more thing about this. What is the lesson going forward? Because who's to say what got me was Magic Johnson, who is the user-friendly person. And he didn't even want a picture with Magic Johnson. And she said right there, well, I don't really know him. And everything. And Magic Johnson, he just, I don't know.
I think that going forward, there's a couple of lessons. The one that kind of stood out at me was always know that everyone isn't your friend, no matter how many. I'm sure they had
Everyone
exchanges.
who smiles in your face is not your friend.
Absolutely, and not that you
And drives your Maserati.
In your
Mazda.
Bugatti.
Mazda.
she's not in the
Mazda,
club.
right.
She's in the black Cherokee. The black Cherokee.
No, it's the Black Jeep
Cher-
Club.
Okay, the Black Jeep Club. We're in the Maserati
Mazda
Club.
Club, right.
But hopefully going forward, Adam Silver, new commissioner in the league. Going forward, I believe he handled this situation great so far. Interested to see how it'll play out. Obviously, there's going to be probably a lengthy, situation, but I think overall, I'm happy with where they are. By far, this has been one of the best first rounds of playoff basketball, and I think that's been
I heard that.
overshadowed. Saturday, we have 3 Game 7s in the first round. And so there's been some wonderful, phenomenal basketball. The attention should be on the players, but instead we're talking about Sterling. But hopefully it gets handled well.
Oh, it will be on the players, and we celebrate the players.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that going forward, the lesson is that you can't think in a racist way anymore. I'm hoping that
get
we
away
sta-
with it.
and get away with it. I'm hoping to change the minds of people.
Yeah.
That the owners have to start thinking a little bit more globally. That this is that you're becoming fast a minority, because all the minorities mixed together are the majority.
Yeah.
But we're
Right.
still so sectioned off because we consider ourselves a minority unto ourselves. But I hope that going forward, that the lesson is you've got to change the ways of thinking, because this is, the NBA is a global business, and you're still thinking in a 1962 Southern racist way, or even Northern racist way. And I'm hoping that going forward, you're starting to change your mind. That these new owners that are coming forward, that are coming up, are saying, I'm judging this person on the basis of his talent and his ability to put a ball through a hoop versus the color of his skin.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll see.
We'll see about
Time will
that.
tell.
We'll see.
That, plantation thing has been
Exactly.
alive and well. In Oklahoma, what happened there? Did anyone
Yeah.
with
With the prisoner.
botched execution?
Yeah.
It was it's your turn.
Ooh, you know what? This kind of hits home, because I'll even share this, I guess, publicly. I have a father that's incarcerated. My father is incarcerated. So I do understand that, when you see executions and things of this nature, first and foremost, that person is the property of the state. And so when you are considered one's property, whatever that person's number is, 12477, how you're viewed upon, even unto death, is not as, with a regular person, a citizen out here living a free life. And so,
Yeah.
it's
It's tough.
it's
This is
real
really,
tough.
really tough.
Yeah.
And especially because the death penalty is already controversial. You have such a divide. You have people over here that say, you committed this crime and it was heinous, and so you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And then you have the other half that says this is inhumane and it should not be a part of what many people consider the most elevated justice system of the world. And so when you have something like this, it creates a platform for that argument to even be more intensified, because this isn't the first time there have been a botched execution, and the whole premise of the conversation is that it's inhumane. And if we look at the facts from the articles printed, this was a terrible situation.
Oh, it was awful.
This was a terrible
and
situation.
people watch this. Number one, I couldn't watch an execution, but
Yeah.
this was so botched. They say his vein blew.
Yeah.
The drugs
Exploded.
didn't penetrate his system correctly. And he died shortly after, not of the,
Like a half an hour later.
Yeah.
That's a long time to be in
he
pain.
suffered,
like this.
and he
Yeah.
said a few words. He said, man, and some other things. And then he had a heart attack and died.
One of the things that keeps coming, I'll just jump on the other side of this because I think this was terrible. I think it was botched
Yeah.
as well. But for the sake of the conversation, let me jump on the other side of this. This woman was buried alive.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
how long did she live in writhe and pain that no one was coming to help her?
Right.
And I'm not saying it's an eye for an eye. I don't think we should have that type of justice. But the conversation is, oh my goodness, Oklahoma they didn't do this right and didn't kill him humanely
Right.
when his crime
Doesn't that
was
seem-
Was
He
inhumane.
didn't.
Yeah.
he killed someone.
And I
inhumanely.
think that the conversation is more not moral but legal, and this would be legally cruel and inhumane. And I think that that's where his attorney is going to have a really strong conversation, because this is going to move into the courts. That this, I believe.
Do you
that I-
think it would move
I
into the
absolutely-
court?
I think so
absolutely
too.
believe
I think
Yeah.
so too.
that his family,
But see,
he
but-
already
Because I
has.
think
But he's going to have to show, and I'm not a lawyer, but he's going to have to show that the intent was for them to treat him
or
cruel and inhuman.
or
and
wanton neglect,
or-
or if there was some type of, because there was some issue with them finding a vein, then they had
Yeah.
to look for like a half an hour or something, and then they had to do it through his leg. So there was some issue there,
Right,
and
so-
we don't know what was documented, but if there was some type of professional neglect or something like that, then they're going to have some explaining to do, and not that justice wasn't served as it was
Right.
delivered by the judge, because he died and he killed this young lady, but it was how it was executed, and I think that's as
If
much
you want to
law.
call in, you could call us at 313-868-0342, 868-0351. But he was supposed to die anyway.
but it was a prolonged effort.
but-
I mean,
but
it was prolonged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And-
something that should have took a
I
couple of
think they
minutes
said
was
the poisons or toxins were even absorbed through his skin versus
Yeah.
intravenously.
Wasn't that in the movie? Wasn't that in
And yeah, I mean, that
Green Mile or something like that? Where
Yeah.
the
I-
guy purposely botched
Yeah.
the execution.
I can't imagine that being the case. And again, not to overshadow the 19-year-old that he heinously killed, but these are separate incidents. He killed her, and the state of Oklahoma killed him, and so they were legally supposed to do it a
I'm
certain
going
way.
to say this, but I don't mean to say it like it sounds. It almost is like karma.
it is in a way, and
Yeah.
and again,
I agree with
again,
that.
you know,
I
when you
agree
look
with
at how
that.
Pretty
prisons
much.
are ran, they're not going to give you the star treatment. They're just not. I mean, it is a prison at the end of the day,
Right.
and whatever the laws of the land say, when you get behind those gates, those barbed wire fences, it's a whole nother ball game. So
I agree.
it's a whole nother ball game when you get behind the fence.
I can't imagine witnessing that. I can't imagine being in the room watching this person explode almost.
Yeah.
Well, I think at some point
They
they
closed
actually
the
closed.
curtain.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
closed the
yeah,
curtain.
but
so
after the
After
first
10 minutes or
10
something.
minutes or something, he's jumping and writhing in pain.
But the lesson, I guess, too, is like you said, don't put yourself in that position. And if there's any young black men, especially, but anyone listening, you look at a situation and we shrek in just thinking about it. But don't put yourself in a position. I remember my uncle, he gave me some advice when I was younger. He said, Chris, never put yourself in a position where you'll be judged by another man. And he was talking about the court system.
Court system.
Yeah.
You know, because that person is imperfect, as we can see that these individuals who were said to execute him did it in an imperfect way, they messed up. And so the whole goal is if he wouldn't have put himself in that position, this wouldn't even be a story. And so we can't do anything about him or the young lady who lost her life, but if there's anyone who's thinking about doing something that can potentially put them in that position, just don't do it.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, it seems like we're having a blast from the past or deja vu because Reverend Horace Sheffield is seeking to bump John Conyers, Congressman John Conyers, off the ballot for improper ballot petition signatures.
What is it? The signatures, or was it the collector of the signatures? It was
Yeah, they weren't
he wasn't
registered voters,
They
yeah.
weren't
like that.
registered
Yeah.
voters.
Was
Can
it Detroit politics at its best?
you speak to that, Tamika?
Yeah, first of all, I was a little surprised to learn that I know the congressman has been in office longer than I've been on this planet, and so that's why it's really imperative to ensure that you have a tight team. I have a great deal of respect for Congressman Conyers, but something went wrong obviously there. It looks as if he's going to have to do a write-in campaign. That could work in Sheffield's favor. But we really shouldn't even be having this conversation because the persons who were out there collecting the petitions, they should have been registered voters. You can never assume anything. When you're pulling together your team, you got to make sure, you got to double check everybody. And so somebody dropped the ball.
Absolutely. This reminds me of Mayor Duggan, his campaign.
That's what
Yeah.
I said last
Exactly.
week.
There was a statement, and I'll regurgitate it. Elephants don't bite, mosquitoes do. And so it's the little things that bite you.
Yeah.
And this was an oversight
Never heard
that should have been caught by, like you said, one of his team members. Obviously, he's not going to probably be the one to
campaign manager,
his
yeah.
campaign staff. And so, again, he's put himself behind the 8 ball. We'll see how this plays out. As far as name recognition, both of them have very strong names. Obviously, Conyers has a name that has been around much longer in the political arena, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I'm going to tweet that later. Elephants don't bite, mosquitoes do. I think that's
That's a
pretty cool.
great. That's a great saying. But John Conyers is 85 years old, and Horace Sheffield has attacked him for being older. We all get there sometime if we're lucky.
If you're lucky, right.
But do you think that Congressman Conyers should have been grooming somebody perhaps to take his place, or is he this error is indicative of some other things that might be going on with his people and the communications, and sometimes people either they forgot. How do you forget after all these years? Like Tamika said, this is kind of messy.
It is messy, and the one thing that I've always, because I've been voting in every election since I was 18, and that's what 2 elections for me so far.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're 25,
Yeah, again.
26? Okay.
So, but it's so important that your organization is right. I mean, the day he decided to run again, he should have gotten everyone in the room and said, "Pull out your voter cards," because you can't help me. If you're sitting in this room and you can't vote in this election, then you can't help me. All you can do is hurt me. So I mean, and so whoever I'm not, I have a great deal of respect for Congressman Conyers too, because he's been around longer than I've been on this planet, and
Okay.
I'm glad you
Okay.
put it that way.
You
Okay.
too?
So, and I've been voting. I've voted for him, and I've met him and all that. But at some point, it kind of goes on autopilot, and I think this is what's going on with him. It just
Yeah,
kind of went
good
on
point.
autopilot. Let's go ahead,
Yeah.
get the signatures. Can you get 1,000 signatures for Congressman Conyers in the city of Detroit? You can do that in
Absolutely.
an afternoon.
Absolutely.
Just go to the Kroger or go to
Or go to a church on
go
Sunday.
to a church on Sunday, and you
Yeah,
got it.
you got
So that part should have been tight. The part, so whoever's running the campaign, I'm sure they're kicking themselves now, saying, "Yeah, you're telling me this now," but they should have had that under control. They should have looked at McCotter. They should have looked at Duggan and said, "We're not going to have this problem. Show me your voter registration cards. If you don't, we'll see you next week after you've got your voter registration cards." So it's a mess.
So that's going to be interesting, especially if they have to do a write-in candidacy. And just a little side note, Robert Davis has filed something against
Oh my God.
Kavanaugh or someone for Wayne County executive. Wow, where does he get
That's
the
a
time?
busy brother right now.
Let's see,
Not a bad guy though.
Belli.
busy.
I'm gonna say the magic words. Belli.
Okay.
I love Belle Isle.
Are the
a different
patrols
world.
excessive?
You know what? I think that this is a classic situation of a conversation of the lesser of two perceived evils. I think that with the state coming in, gathering control of Belle Isle, it's very important that they show a firm contrast from the status quo. And I think that you have a certain demographic or a certain group of individuals that's going to hone in on them more than others. But I think that to say that they're doing overkill right now is really to be endorsing what Belle Isle once was, and the reason why a lot of us chose not to go out there and not to make it the park of choice. And I think that there's points to be made on both sides, but I'd rather at this point in time, especially because it's so new, I think that there has to be a show of strength. There has to be a definite line drawn in the sand that certain things are no longer tolerated. There are certain citations that may be written right now that 2 years from now, once the law of the land has been laid, maybe they can allow that to kind of slide by. Hey, I'll give you a warning. But right now, the
That's what they
message
did.
needs to be sent
Right.
clearly that, hey, you cannot have open containers of liquor. You cannot smoke marijuana. You cannot, litter or whatever those citations. Because I think that the conversation came from there was like 500
No,
tickets
but-
written or something.
They
Let me-
said
let-
that the Department of Natural Resources on Tuesday that said that 200 people were arrested on Belle Isle for outstanding warrants, marijuana possession, a concealed weapon, and open intoxicants. Others have been cited for violating park closing times, driving through stop signs, or having no dogs on leash. 80 tickets for breaking traffic rules and park rules through April 27th.
Let me, Chris, I totally agree. I referee basketball. And in order to set a tone in a game, the first quarter, you come out and you call it. I'm going to call it hard.
Yep.
Okay, if this little tap here, that's a foul. So that by the second and third quarter or by the second half, we don't have to worry about
They
that
police
anymore.
themselves.
They police now. So that's first. The second thing is, and I've had, and I don't live inside the city of Detroit anymore, but I worship inside the city of Detroit, and I work inside the city of Detroit, and I love Belle Isle. I loved Belle Isle as a child. When I moved back to Detroit, I wanted to make sure my kids had access to that park, and we did a couple of picnics, family gatherings out at Belle Isle, and the marijuana, the drinking, and the tomfoolery that was going on out there didn't allow my family to, because I'm getting hot trying to protect my family. Now, if this is what they're citing people for, as far as open intoxicants and marijuana smoking, I don't have a problem with that. Now, according to the people that were stopped, the notables that were stopped, they were given a warning. Hey, slow down, you're doing 35. There are little children out there. There are people who are, I walk and I run, and I would like to go out to Belle Isle, walk, run, and ride my bike. If you're doing 45 or 35, then you're actually moving pretty fast. So let's make Belle Isle the jewel that it's supposed to be, and let's go through this first quarter. Let's get or this first half of the game. Let's get Belle Isle back to where we can go out there and take pictures by the fountain. We can go out there to
And
the
the fountain
casino.
changes colors again.
Changes
Oh,
colors.
yeah.
That is the most beautiful thing that you
It
can
hasn't
see.
changed colors since I was a little girl.
I
Exactly.
want them to step it up. I like them to cite for sagging, the pants sagging too low myself. I'm a little old school, a little new school, and I think that the image of Belle Isle had taken such a hit that right now this is much PR, and we're talking about this because people are looking at this negatively, but there's a flip side of this that a lot of folks are cheering. A lot of folks are cheering, saying it's about darn time that certain things weren't tolerated. And I say for each instance that you mentioned, I don't have any real sympathy because there wasn't anything on there that the person cited or arrested couldn't control themselves. You had the warrant.
Exactly.
You know, you had the open container
To
of
make,
liquor.
But you know what I want to say? I was at Belle Isle 2 weeks ago, actually on a Sunday, and to be honest, I actually felt a little uncomfortable. And the reason why, because of course I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't have any warrants out for my arrest or anything, but it was
not lately.
Oh,
yeah.
jeez.
But it was
No,
just the perception. It felt like if I would have went 1 mile over, like I was going to get pulled over. So I felt very uncomfortable. So while, you know, I'm a big cheerleader, advocate for order, you know, don't run away the folk that have been here when it wasn't cool to be in Detroit.
True.
That's my major concern. You know, I live downtown Detroit, and I should be able to frequent the park without feeling uncomfortable or feeling like if I go, I mean, I
What
was
was
about
it-
to
what
say,
was it that made you feel
it was just it was the perception. It's the way how I felt. It's a feeling. I can't really
Was
describe
it the police presence?
it was
it
the
the fact that-
presence. It just felt.
Was it a lot of police presence?
It was a lot of police. It was a lot of police in the vehicles that they pulled over. There were 2 or 3 state police cars for one vehicle. But again, just the tone, it felt different.
I think
It
I
felt
can
different.
identify with that because you have those same type
It
of
was like
feelings
10 and
in
2
other
driving.
suburban
We
communities.
have a
when you-
call,
okay.
ladies and gentlemen. Leon is on the line. Good morning, Leon.
Good morning. How are you and your guests?
Oh, just fine,
Doing
thanks.
great.
Good
Thank you.
morning.
I'm 84 years old. I'll give you my qualifications. I have a business. We're graduating young black men tomorrow. 25 of them, and
Wow.
we're
Congratulations.
Yep,
to you.
incarcerated.
Awesome.
and we're going to give them jobs.
Good job.
Now, see, look at here. I've been all over the world, Japan, Europe, and every place. So the way and I've worked with law enforcement too. But the way you have it, that is the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm tired of being, someone. I don't do anything. I don't have a police record. Never have had one. And have a business in it. And I've worked there, and when you can just look a different way, and people can write you a ticket. For instance, when George Wallace ran, or anything, the perception, if they don't like you and they preconceived notion that you're that, and they will pull you over. And that's what, and I have been around enough. And not only that, when I was overseas, they told we had tails in the evening.
Right.
They
right.
come and put our hand on our backside. So I don't see, you young people, you might be smart, but lots of the messages you didn't get. They have the same thing that they criminalized us yesterday as they is it today. And I don't think you get it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Leon.
Thank you.
And I think that touches on the lesser of two evils. And appreciate your call, Mr. Leon. But I think that the folks that were cited and arrested, probably the majority of them weren't because they looked a certain way. But these folks actually had warrants. They had open containers of liquor.
Well, how do you know?
Well, I mean, there's.
Okay, we have Maurice on the line. Good morning, Maurice.
Hi, how are you this morning?
I'm just fine, thanks.
Hey, Maurice.
That's good. Yes, I'd just like to comment on today's topic matter of Belle Isle. First, I'd just like to say the Detroit International River is a very crystal blue, majestic blue color river with an island sitting right there in the middle of it. That makes Detroit very unique. I've been all through the French Riviera. I've been all through the Caribbean, all through down there in Kenya, and all through over there in that Mediterranean. And Belle Isle ranks up there with the best of them. When you look at Belle Isle is very much like the French Riviera
It's
and the
beautiful.
Caribbean. Because being in Detroit, a city over 90% black, we are the Caribbean of the North. I just do not appreciate when you have people from Detroit, and particularly those black people from the suburbs, talking as if they're not even black people from Detroit at all. Belle Isle belongs to Detroit. It does not belong to Rick Schneider. The way Rick Schneider stole St. Albans Park and created Milliken Park, and they've privatized the whole Detroit River. They put us off of these small parks on the river over here on the east side. Over there at the Hart Plaza, one of the final leg runs of the Underground Railroad, directly related to us. They kicked us off of the Hart Plaza. No more Detroit International African World Festival. So I just want to say to this gentleman sitting here from the suburbs who would have the nerve to say that he doesn't mind these people getting over 500 young black men, who are the majority of them, who were ticketed by those state police, who I sit and watch them all day, all night, blue and red police lights on, and they are pulling cars over left and right all day, every day. And they're making people afraid to go out there at Belle Isle. That's what happened when you get Republicans who come into a 90% black city and take over our city and steal all our assets and our jewels. And how dare you sit there as a black man when you see a city full of black people suffering from this? Many of our young people already don't have any place to go. And now they are intimidated by those doggone state police out there, when the city of Detroit police are supposed to be out there, and our city is supposed to be ran by us and nobody else but us. And not some doggone Republican damn governor up there in Lansing.
Leon.
Okay,
Maurice,
first of all, I want
okay.
to thank you for your call.
Thank you. Thank you for your call.
I think you were probably talking about me. So I'll respond, not in kind, but I'll respond. First of all, I am from the city of Detroit, grew up in the city of Detroit, West Side.
What high school?
Cooley High School, 1984. Cooley.
What side?
Cooley.
So I'm from the city of Detroit, and like I said, I work and do everything, and I mentor the young men in the city of Detroit. Check out the Facebook page of Detroit Pray and Play Basketball. You'll see me there. But what I guess my only comment, and I'm piggybacking off Chris here, my only comment is the majority of the people that were caught, and I understand, there was some things that I don't know how they got stopped. I don't know what the circumstances was, and I don't think, I'm not sure how that went down, but they were people with warrants. Let's not just say, oh, it's black people, black people. These were people with warrants. These were people smoking weed. I want to take my children. I want if my mother used to take, my mother was alive, she used to take us to Belle Isle every Saturday. Get on that drive
every week.
And get on that giant slide. Go get the ice cream truck and aquarium. The golf course is closed. They had to close the zoo. They had to close just about every attraction out there at Belle Isle on that jewel because we did not take care of that park. You can't even play baseball on all those diamonds, which is supposed to be those softball diamonds out there, because there's glass. There's no cleaning up. There's no restrooms. So let's stop. Let's look in the mirror, take a look at ourselves, and say, what am I doing for this? I'm paying taxes. I pay taxes in the city of Detroit. I pay city taxes. I pay my federal taxes and everything else. So let's work together and not try. First of all, I'm not a Republican. Never have been. And I vote in every election. Never voted Republican.
But even if you were, it's okay.
Even if I was, but I'm not.
Okay.
So let's just be honest with ourselves and say that that Belle Isle was going down. This is a way, not the only way.
This is not even the best.
Not
way,
even the best way, but it's a way. And I think Tamika was you were just
we both played a part in it, meaning Detroiters, and now you have the state takeover. So I think it's really imperative to implement some type of sensitivity training.
Absolutely.
That's because pulling over everyone, a lot of times it could be perceived as profiling.
Right. You got to know how to talk to people, and why are you pulling people over and stuff
think
like
about
that.
If 90%, and I'm just jumping on the other side for the sake of this conversation, if 90% of the people that go to Belle Isle are African Americans or black, how large?
90% of the arrests.
90% of the arrests are going to be African Americans or blacks. If we're the only ones out there,
or the majority
of them out there, then who are they going to? And I agree with the sensitivity training. I absolutely agree.
And I don't know that if MSP has that already or not, but I will say this: when Maurice touched on how the young black men are afraid to go out there, when I can't speak on that, but when I was younger and I did something wrong, I was afraid. I was afraid that I was going to get caught. I was afraid that I was going to get punished. And I think that in the city of Detroit, it's high time for individuals who have these warrants, who have these issues where they disregard other citizens, that they do, that they are
should be afraid.
somewhat have some
Be
fear.
afraid, be
Yeah.
very
But
Okay, we have Jackie on the line
Okay.
real quick because it's almost time for the show to be over. Oh, she's not there now. Go on. What were you going to say, Tamika?
But for years, people have gotten away with things in Detroit. When you look at people
Hello?
speed through Detroit, and then when
Oh,
they
hello?
cross.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I just wanted to comment that I'm really enjoying your program.
Thank you.
One thing I would like to know, with the tickets and warnings that were given at Belle Isle, why were they given, and why were they stopped to find out that they had a warrant?
Yeah, what
Is
percent?
it driving while black on the island? I think maybe what we need to know is exactly why these people were stopped.
Well, they
Also,
say.
when we say that we didn't take care of the Belle Isle, we paid our taxes, we did everything that we thought we should do. We put
Right.
bond money up for our children, but the people that we have representing us are not representing us. And because we have no way of knowing who's going to represent you, we're in really a real bad way. Thanks for your time.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank
You
you.
have a
Great
great,
call.
Thank you.
great call. Speeding was one of the things. People don't realize how low the speed limit
It's
is
25.
in Belle Isle.
25.
25 and 20 in
And
some spots. You're right.
also, I think the speeding got a lot of people stopped. I don't think it was all driving while black, but one thing about it, they need some sensitivity training. And have you ever, let me just say this, have you ever gone and used a credit card or your debit card to pay for something and they said, let me see your license? And then you say, my license? But then you say, okay, protect me. You know, in other words, here's my license, this is who I am. I know you're doing it for our protection.
As long as they do everybody. Last
As long
night I
as
went
they
to the
do
gas
everyone.
station
Exactly.
and I got
We gotta
some
hurry up.
admin.
We gotta wrap.
He took my $10 and held it up to the light. I was like, I want to stay in there and see if we get
Everybody, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week. And next week on my morning show, Shaquille O'Neal's mother is supposed to call in.
Wow. Awesome.
So I'm excited about it. So I'll see you then.
Thank you. Goodbye, Detroit.
Thanks for a great conversation, guys.
Hey.